This week's episode is brought to you by the home and auto insurance brand Canadians trust most, Intact Insurance. Hello, everyone. I'm Jann Arden. This is the Jann Arden Podcast, one of the most successful, wildly acclaimed podcasts of all times. I'm here with Caitlin Green. Caitlin Green is a person that I have personally known and vouched for many, many times.
Hello.
Hi, Caitlin. Yeah.
I know.
Sarah
Personally
Burke.
vouched for it to the police specifically.
What? Yes. No. And Sarah Burke. So I'm here with two young women, everyone. I'm 62 years old. For those who are new listeners to our podcast, I'm a 62-year-old singer-songwriter, author, sometimes actor, animal advocate, vegan. You get sick of me talking about that. And I am here with two. What generation would you girls say you're from? Because I know that Sarah Burke is 37-ish. I'm just going to put that out there.
Good
Caitlin,
memory, yes.
Caitlin Green is 40.
I'm a millennial.
She has a millennial. And are you also a millennial, Sarah?
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
All right. So I'm here with women that are basically, 30 years younger than me. Let's say 25. Let's just split it down the middle.
Yeah.
And we have not opposing points of view, but we have very different takes on things. So the first thing I'm going to throw at you young women is the whole idea of, and this is because of the Bridgerton thing. It's been online a lot about the slightly rotund star, the ingenue, the love interest of the very slim, attractive man. And the internet's gone wild talking about how can a girl that's a little bit, rotund, be with this guy. It wouldn't happen in real life, as some of the comments
When
that
you
I've been
say
reading.
rotund, do you mean like what their weight?
Well, the mean people are saying she's too fat. A fat girl wouldn't end up with a slim, fit guy. It doesn't
I haven't
work.
watched Bridgerton, so maybe just in case someone hasn't watched Bridgerton, give us like a little.
It is a period piece. It's a Shonda Rhimes. It's in that realm of one of her creations. And the irony,
it's like a sexy soap opera set in an imaginary world of the 1800s or whatever.
I think it's the 18th century, indeed.
Okay.
But just like the big puffy dresses, the puff hair, the poofy hair. Picture Marie Antoinette.
Mm-hmm.
But it's anyway. So this thing has gone wild, and I'm just. The thing that bugs me is that we're used to seeing Fred Flintstone and Wilma. So this big lumpy guy with the skinny little, Wilma. We're used to seeing the King of Queens, what's his name, with the very, very slim girlfriend, or anything John Candy was in. He always had a very, very stick-like wife or partner or girlfriend or love interest. So we're used to seeing that trope over and over and over again of these big guys, whether it's Tony Soprano and, his wife on that long-running show. We're used to the idea of the big guy with the very slim, attractive woman. But my God, everyone's losing their shit over this girl who's, diminutive. She's like 5'2", probably 180 pounds. And then this really tall, handsome man who's trim and fit. So I want your take on it.
Yeah, I feel like it's her name. The actress's name, I believe, is Nicola Coughlan. She's from Ireland. I could be butchering that pronunciation, but she's
beautiful.
She is beautiful. And she's talked a lot about being curvy and in the media. And I think people would ask her frequently about dating for her or what it's like to be in the public eye and on screen for a woman of her size. And I think that she repeatedly had said, oh, well, for someone with my body type, do you mean somebody with perfect breasts? She's like, that. What's it like for me with my perfect breasts? Oh, it's great. So she's obviously in real life, like a very confident, attractive person. And the criticism to me seems, oh God, boring is the first word that comes to mind. It's just a very boring conversation for anyone to get caught up in.
This is a lot of women going against it too. They just,
I believe it, of course. Like, I mean, real life. But internalized misogyny is here to stay, apparently. But I feel as though it's boring, it's outdated, and it's just illogical because you're going to see people of all shapes and sizes in relationships with each other in real life all the time. And looks are subjective. You might find somebody to be not of the same ranking on your attractiveness scale as the person that they're partnered with, but that's you. And I'm sure if you flipped I mean, how many times if you're like taking a selfie or like taking a photo and you flip your camera around and you look at yourself and you're like, oh my God. I always think when people are criticizing someone else's looks on on the internet, I'm like, if we flipped your phone around right now, I bet you'd look like crap. So I never get too worried about it.
Yeah.
But it's rude. It's rude and outdated and boring. It's rude and outdated and boring. It's just like, it's just not for me.
Sarah,
Oh, okay.
You're up.
you think you're going to be exempt from this conversation? I just find it curious.
Yeah.
That's all. That
Yeah.
there's just so much criticism.
I will say that, you know, I wouldn't call myself a curvy woman, but I have an athletic body type, right? And I will say that it doesn't make me feel amazing to be beside a slender man in real life, right?
Are you kidding me right now?
No, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes, like, I'm just putting myself in this actress's, you know, shoes maybe. And, you know, sometimes I think that, like, especially if I'm like swiping on the apps and stuff, it's like, I'd crush that guy. Like, you know, like that's an actual thing in my mind.
Crush him in bed or crush him?
Not necessarily. Like, probably be able to
Hello.
fight him, maybe even. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that in the dating world.
No, I just mean I would feel more confident in my own skin next to someone who is same or larger than me.
Would you date a
because-
fat guy?
Yeah, I don't care about that. I'm actually
Okay,
I
because
love
you're
the idea of a big bear to cuddle with. Yeah,
all right. Okay, I'm
But so
glad to
you
hear
lean
that.
away from a slighter build of a man because you prefer the feeling in a relationship of being smaller than your partner.
Yeah, for some reason, and that's interesting now that we're saying it out loud. Hey,
No, but it is so. And I've talked about this, you know, over the years in media too, when these topics would kind of come up, and frequently when I was on the radio, and we would have male listeners text us in and say, "Okay, so to counter with what we feel judged by is our height." So there'll be lots
Yeah.
of criticism about women for their weight. But then men will say, you go to a dating site, and one of the most common things that no woman is interested in, or they
Shorter.
claim not to be interested in on these dating sites, is a man under 6 feet tall. But that's
Under 6 foot?
yes, and that's like a whole thing, is like
Yeah.
women who are interested in very tall men only. And even just that trending piece of audio that was turned into like a song that was going around this year, where it was like 6'5", blue eyes, finance, like all that, like
Can
as
you
a
sing
list.
that again for us, please?
Sorry, yeah. But it's a list, this list of what women find attractive in men, frequently starting with being tall. Look, how's a guy going to go be tall if he's not tall?
I went on a date with a man that was 6'3"
Mhm.
last week,
Mhm.
and he was really slender. And I thought the I would crush you thing, even standing beside him at 6'3". Just
Do you
saying.
think you have body dysmorphia? Because you're not.
Okay,
that big.
I'm lost on the "I would crush you" thing. What do you mean by that?
Like, I feel like I have a bigger build,
So like
this
hugging,
way,
okay.
wide versus tall. I think is what I'm saying.
Well,
like, I've
you
got
are-
some shoulders and like
She's tiny. You're very fit. This is a ridiculous conversation. So we're moving on.
Okay, you wanted to
No,
know my
no, I
thoughts.
know, but I now I feel bad because when I look at you two, you are absolutely the quintessential fit, fabulous, beautiful, smart, entrepreneurial, sexy women. And so that there's even a shadow of a doubt in your minds that you're going to crush a 6'3" guy because you have broad shoulders. You are a very you're a small person, Sarah. Like, we've had dinner with you, and you're not a big eater. Telling you what, this
Little do
this
you
is a
know.
person that'll have a rice
Yeah.
ball. And anyway, I guess my
It's a
point
confidence
being
thing.
is when we see
Yeah.
a slim, nice-looking man, a fit man with an overweight. I'm just going to put that out there because that's I'm trying
That's
to
what
be
people are
delicate about
calling
it.
her.
Yeah.
We're all freaking out, and now we're living in a world where when these actresses are overweight, this is the first comment they get. Why are you not on Ozempic? Why don't you go on
That's terrible.
Monjourno? Why aren't you taking Wegovy? Why aren't you doing any of these things? You have a choice. This is what's fucking happening now. You
Yeah.
have a choice. You are choosing to be fat. You are choosing to look like that because now you have, sorry, I had a hair in my eye. Now you have the option of taking something that's been proven to be scientifically, positive and not harmful to you, So
I sort
you're
of loved her
so,
breast comment.
I
'Cause
know, but
it's like,
now we have
perfect.
another layer to this already.
Yeah. I think everyone knew that when at least I knew when Ozempic came out, I thought to myself, oh, dang it, this is going to lead to some disordered eating for sure. And also, it's going to treat this like this is a problem to be fixed.
Yeah.
That you're choosing not to fix the problem of not being considered hot by very narrow, boring standards that aren't actually applicable in real life. I mean,
Yeah.
truthfully, there are tons and tons of men and women who are attracted to people of all different shapes and sizes. And I think a lot about the height thing for men, the weight thing for women, and that when it all really comes down to it, it's just designed to make people kind of hate how they look and hate themselves, and then probably spend a whole bunch of money on trying to fix that.
Valid point, product of our environments. Right?
Yeah, so it's like, it's just, I think an increased awareness around like how this makes people feel, and then how it makes them, interact with other people and dating and all that stuff is like is
Such
appropriate.
A tired conversation that we see. We're never not going to have it. We're going to be having these conversations, and like I was saying with the drugs now, we face a whole new barrage of criticisms that there's lots of things we could do to change this, and obviously you're not doing it. But the price is also a factor. Ozempic, I know for a fact, is about $400 a month.
Oh my God.
And it's not covered by healthcare unless you are a type 2 diabetic or a diabetic, where it is often covered because it's obviously a drug designed initially to help with your glycemic index and your blood sugars and all of that kind of stuff. So there are people, and I read this article, there are women, and I believe it was out of Oklahoma. A woman her drugs, because of the healthcare in the United States, were $1,000 a month. So she was paying $250 a week for her. I want to say Ozempic, but I listen, I'm not sure, folks, but one of those drugs. And she was literally the desire to keep, she went off it for like a month, and she put 10 pounds on. She freaked out so badly because she was going broke. She could hardly feed her kids, hardly pay the rent. And she was in a quandary. She out loud said it, I am choosing to pay for this drug when my kids are going without stuff at school. We're struggling to get by, because she is taking that money and spending it on her weight loss drugs instead of this already broke, tax to the max family. Her kids are, suffering because of she's taking these drugs.
I also am like, guys, spend this money on therapy, please. I mean,
but this is what I mean. She panicked because they say as soon as you go off of these drugs, and this
you gain it
science,
back and more.
Your weight comes back.
Yeah, it's ultimately
this is a lifetime commitment.
Yeah, if that's the type of thing that your doctor is genuinely recommending to you for diabetic reasons, because you're weighing the risk and reward and it's of value to you, then obviously, listen to what your doctor says. Beyond that, I think recognizing the role that vanity is playing in it, and how what that says about the society that you operate in and your own self-worth, I think it's an important conversation to dig a little bit deeper on before you go, not to say nothing of the fact that you're injecting yourself with a needle every day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something. I would have a hard time with that if it wasn't deemed medically necessary. If I had to medically do it, I'd be like, whatever, I can tough it out. If I was like, oh no, I'm so worried about how I look that I'm going to inject myself, not even have someone else do it. And like, where is it going, in your leg? Or I don't know.
Your stomach. You inject it into your stomach.
Yeah. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, listen, at one point I considered it. I'm like, I technically should probably lose 25 pounds, but I'm a fit person. I'm in the gym a lot. I love to eat. I probably do way more carbs, but yeah, I've been that person kind of my whole life. I've been up and down, but I think I'm 163 pounds. I'm 5'3", which is definitely, I should be like 140, 100, I should be there.
It's so funny how different bodies are so like, I am 5'4". I'm 1 inch taller than you.
Yeah.
And right now I've just built a bunch of muscle because I've been training hard, and I'm at 160. Isn't that so funny how different bodies?
Well,
it doesn't
this
matter
is the thing.
what's on the scale.
And I was kind of shocked when I stepped on the scale. I'm like, okay. And I've got, the double D boobs. I carry stuff on my tummy, but I mean, I'm always glad that I can do hard hikes and 45-minute cardio, and I've added weights, like I'm doing weights now.
Good job.
But I look at myself and I'm like, you looking good, girl.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't stop in front of a mirror. Like, I'm a solid person. You don't grab me and it's
That's
flabby.
what I was gonna say. And just as a like a tack on to the body dysmorphia thing, like I know I think that way when I'm considering, someone, but like when I'm on my own, I'm happy. Like I'm not worried. I'm very confident on my own
I'd
person.
crush you.
I mean, I think, yeah, like I've been heavier when I was not working out and not watching what I ate.
Yeah.
I've lost the weight.
You had a baby.
Yeah.
E.
Yeah, I had two. So I'm like, hello,
Yeah,
look,
you know what? You did. You did.
I had two C-sections. I gained pregnancy weight. Like I've been there.
Yeah.
I will say that my default body setting is naturally slim so far. That can change with so much with age and with hormones and all of these things. But yeah, I definitely think there is a fixation societally on how we all look, and it triggers for different people in different ways.
Yeah.
And I just think a little more curiosity about where that comes from and why, and it is probably necessary for everybody with the increase in Ozempic. I also want to say Ozempic face is a real thing. So for many people who are like looking for this rail thin
Sharon
body,
Osbourne.
Sharon Osbourne, exactly. You're looking for this rail.
She looks so unwell.
Yeah, well,
and another person, Shania Twain.
And Scott Disick for men too, right?
Ozempic. It's just like
it's making people look gaunt and older and unhealthy.
They look bad.
So I
take me anytime, any fucking time. I would take my body over that.
Agree.
Yeah. It's not, I'm not super comfortable with it. So you knew it was going to be a slippery slope the second that it came around. The second this drug came around and it became popular, and it was the whispers in Hollywood, that's how everyone was losing weight. And then they came out with it and admitted it, which needed to happen.
Yeah.
It's just, you knew it was going to be weird.
Well, if that's your currency, if you are putting your appearance, like your weight, above other things in your life, your character, your good heart, your ability to inspire others, your ability to be part of your community, I think women in particular, and I'll just put this out there, please encourage each other. Please tell your pals they look good. Please encourage them to put on a bathing suit. Please tell them that those jeans are great. Please tell them that, oh my God, that's so cute on you. Please encourage your friends. Lift them up and encourage them.
People miss an entire summer because they
miss entire lifetimes
because they don't want to be seen in a bathing suit. And honestly, like on a podcast I edited recently, like, Sarah Nicole Landry, Birds Papaya on Instagram, she was saying that she was so upset about missing so much with her kids before the last one that she had during the pandemic, because there were a bunch of years in between, and that she's wearing her bathing suits. She's got a new Sports Illustrated thing she just did with Nyx. She is not missing another summer. She is, all about being confident in her body as it is.
Girl, when you get here, I'm going to be in my orange bikini with my side boob fat coming out, my cellulite. I'm going to be in there with my de-alcoholized Corona. Corona, please sponsor us.
Are we in Texas?
I love your the sun beer that you have, those Coronas, those no alcohol
I love those.
Coronas.
When I was pregnant, I drank those things like crazy. They're the best.
Anyway,
I have been on a Peroni kick. The Italian
Peroni.
beer?
Yeah.
It's so delicious. Oh my God.
Well, obviously Peroni stole their name from Coroni. Corona. Sorry, that's a little bit too close to home.
Okay,
anyway,
moving on.
and if you're on Ozempic out there and you're trying to manage your weight, I guess I am backtracking right now because I don't want to discourage you. Some people have come to a wall in their life where they cannot budge. They cannot move that number. It's affecting their mental health. So I am going to apologize, and I am going to back up a bit, because if that's helping you and if it's making you happier, if it's giving you hopefulness, if getting into that smaller size, you know what? Good on you. And I guess I'm being really hypocritical, but I'm saying whatever makes you feel good, do it. But if you're feeling pressured because you think that's how you're supposed to be, that's, I think, our argument here on the podcast today is you're good no matter what you are, but we also want you to be in good health. We want your heart to keep ticking away. We want you to be able to walk with your kids. We want you to be able to do all those things.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
you know, I guess it's a balance. Hey, guys, finding
That's the
that
thing.
balance.
It's like there's always like things go too far and then it's unhealthy and then things are, you know, so long as you're checking in and doing like I would say like the internal look work of like, how is this making me feel? How am I engaging with it? Is it healthy for me emotionally? Then, you know, go right ahead. But it's not, it doesn't seem like, again, for all the celebs that are doing this all the time, it doesn't always seem like there's necessarily a healthy conversation happening with it.
And it's not about that. It's about being super, super skinny. I mean,
And that's also what Hollywood expects a lot of them to look like. And they live in a world where that is rewarded. And it's rewarded with career opportunities and with positive feedback and more PR deals and all these things. So you can see how it happens. But again, it's just that curiosity about, is this healthy and what role do I play in a larger system that is designed to make people spend money because we have told them to hate themselves? Like, that's just not cool.
That's fair, Caitlin. That's very fair. And well said. Moving on to diarrhea, because that's what we do on this show.
Well, there's a connection here.
Caitlin brought this story. I'm just going to hand it over to you. It's Gwyneth Paltrow. It's apparently a goop party, but fuck, Caitlin, this is so
what is
funny.
The goop?
I know. I was like,
what's the scoop on the goop?
Well, it's related to poop. And it's also related in a weird way to Ozempic. Okay, so this story goes around.
Oh my God. Is it there?
Yes,
we
it is.
Connected it. See, we are not randos here.
I thought you did that on purpose.
I fucking didn't. I did not.
Okay, so what happened was there's the thing in the entertainment news world called a blind item, where a publication or a tabloid will come out with a story that is making its way through the whisper networks of Hollywood or New York or wherever, but they'll give semi-identifying details about who this story is about, but they won't actually come out and say it because they're afraid of, you know, litigation.
I'm convinced you are an LAPI.
I should be. I would love that job. I would love to be the Demois of Canada so badly. Anyways, so this story comes out. It was a blind item. I forget if it was Demois or if it was somewhere else. But anyways, it was said that Gwyneth Paltrow was going around telling her famous friends, inclusive of the Seinfelds, you know, and everyone else, and saying that she had this party at her estate in the Hamptons, and that a guest who was staying for the weekend suffered from an explosive round of diarrhea in bed, and then instead of notifying her and taking ownership of the issue, just fled the scene of the crime. And
she knows who was staying in the room.
So she knows who it was.
Yeah.
But then it starts going around in the New York and Hollywood Hampton circles, and everyone wants to reveal who it is, but nobody wants to be the person who reveals it. So it's going around, and then everyone starts playing this guessing game of who literally shit the bed at Gwyneth Paltrow's house. And it turned out to be a longtime celebrity sort of style commentator, man about town, who you likely won't know, who isn't even like a household name, named Derek Blasberg. And this poor guy now has been.
Derek.
I know. I'm sorry too, because this is embarrassing, and like people.
We're
poop.
obviously not that sorry.
I mean, people poop. That is the truth. But I just love that the Daily Mail UK, you know, really down there at the bottom of the barrel sometimes for celebrity news stories, starts covering this as if it was an election, as if this was, you know, a manhunt, and they find out, they're like, oh, it was celebrity hanger-on Derek Blasberg who.
What does this have to do with Ozempic?
He apparently blamed it on Ozempic, and that was what picked this. That's what kind of the story gained some traction, because then all these celebrities who take it and have talked about it don't want everyone going around thinking that
there's
one of the side effects is they don't want everyone thinking that they have diarrhea in bed commonly.
Like, it couldn't be all the alcohol you're drinking or
other substances. Yeah, like, I feel like it's a big party, and maybe you had too many tacos. Who the heck knows? But I guess the complaint was that it was Ozempic caused diarrhea, and then everyone starts coming out and saying Ozempic doesn't do that. And now I'm like, how much time has everyone in the tabloid world devoted to tracking down this poor guy who just is guilty of kind of being a human being? Like, I feel bad for him. He's never going to leave. This story won't leave now.
Poor guy.
I am so glad that I'm not like a famous person, because I have pooed my pants.
The plane
public.
story, it's stuck in my brain.
The plane, that was a fart.
But wasn't it a shart?
No, I didn't
Okay.
shart. I did not shart on the plane. I farted and people around me started coughing because it was so bad. I had some stomach issues and it was one of those really quiet flights.
Yeah.
We'd probably been in the air for 3.5 hours and I was slowly trying to hold farts in so that they didn't make any noise. I mean, a good place to fart is on a plane because you have enough white noise that you can get away with, a pretty good loud fart. Just saying. When you travel a lot, you know these things.
Tips.
But when you hit a stinky patch, which I rarely ever have in my life, I mean that earnestly, people around me were coughing. Literally coughing. But anyway, I've told this story many times, but I had diarrhea. I had come from Africa. I was now in Germany. I hadn't really dealt with a parasite that I had in my stomach. It was terrible. I was slowly taking these pills, but I got on stage in Cologne, Germany. Oh, the irony is not lost on me, Cologne. And on the first song, I had liquid hot poo going down my legs, like down my pant legs into my boot. And I literally had tears. I just felt like bursting out crying. It was a showcase. I was so upset and I was
I'm so sorry.
And I was pinching my bum together and I'm trying to sing and I just stayed up there the whole time and Russell's
singing
looking at
Could
me.
I Be Your Girl with diarrhea?
Yeah. You want to hit this? I know you do. But I just, so these moments where you do have, I've certainly had experiences in my life when I've been really sick, with the flu and not made it or whatever. And anyway, that was in public. I wasn't drunk or drinking. I obviously wasn't on any kind of weight loss medication. And I shit my pants. I begged Russell after the show was over and I had to do an encore. Mm-hmm. So before we went on stage, I did burst into tears and I said to Russ, I pooed my pants and he goes, "It's okay, buddy." I said, "Can you see it?" And I'm spinning around for him so that he could look at me. Is anything showing? And he's earnestly lifting up my jacket. There's something to be said for a girl that always wears jackets and long shirts and shit. It is that.
Truly
and he lifted up my shirt and he said, I don't see any poo. This is true friendship.
I didn't realize how close you guys were.
No, we were. And I was crying. And he's like, "Oh, come on, bud, we can do it." And we went back out. And I think, we were singing Good Mother as an encore. This would have been in the 90s.
Having to do an encore with diarrhea is cruel and unusual punishment.
Why don't you just call the encore off the one night is my question.
You just can't. I just couldn't.
She's
People were
it.
like, oh, it's Germany. They're they got their beer steins in their hand. They're waving their pretzels in the air. And I'm just I got to go do this. I'm kidding, of course. And anyway, I ended up, Russell went and got my suitcase afterwards. I'm now crying in the bathroom stall. He's rolled my suitcase in. I roll these pants up and I fucking stuff them in the garbage. But I'm so self-conscious that I'm wrapping these pooey, and it was watery. It was it was so awful. Ugh. So I wrapped them in all these paper towels to put the pants in the garbage because I was so embarrassed of even the janitors finding this stuff. And then I got myself cleaned up and I threw the underpants in the garbage and I got paper towel and I got soapy and I washed my legs off and I'm bawling my head off and then I put on clean jeans and it just felt so good to put on clean jeans and get out of there. And my heart was skippy.
Of course.
Anyway, it is not fun to poo your pants. So Derek, I'm sorry that we've outed you. And I'm obviously telling the story that is
to make him
more horrible than your story. I would have rather shit the bed at Gwyneth Paltrow's house than go through what I went through. I'd rather be in Gwyneth's 1,400 fucking thread count sheets and shit in them than go through what I went through
with an audience. Yeah.
Well, and then you think about too, I listened to, from Weekend Update on SNL, Colin Jost. He said a conversation that he had early on in his relationship with Scarlett Johansson, who he's now married to, was that he frequently shit his pants. And when he realized that she never had, he's like, I approached this from a place of, isn't this an annual occurrence for most people? And she was like, no, this has never happened to me. And he was like, oh, I might have digestive issues. And she was like, yeah, you should probably go talk to your doctor if this happens a lot. But I was like, this guy could have had Norwalk. He could have had norovirus. Because when I was in New York and I was super sick, I'll tell you, before I got on that flight, when I left the hotel that day and I left the safety of being within 6 feet of a toilet, I was so full of Imodium and Gravol. I cannot even tell you. I don't think I ate properly for a full week after. Like, it's a mess. And so what are you supposed to do? You get food poisoning. You happen to be at Gwyneth Paltrow's house. It's like the worst possible situation, but you crap the bed. And anyone who has had any kind of pants ruining incident knows there is no greater fear in life than when you are part of a society that is going to very publicly shame you for this. But like, you can't help it. I once got so high that I thought I peed my pants. I'll say that. I didn't.
Shrooms?
You got
Or
so
something else?
high?
Yeah, I smoked so much weed when I was in high school once at a party that I convinced myself that I'd peed my pants. Because I don't know if anyone else ever has this, but if you get too high, sometimes I hold my pee.
I've never smoked.
Oh, you've never smoked weed? Okay.
No, I
Sarah,
don't
do you ever
know.
have this thing where you feel like sometimes when you get too high, you realize when you go to the bathroom, you're like, I've been holding my pee for like 2 hours?
Shrooms, but not weed.
Okay, interesting. So weed for
Yeah.
me.
I'm so glad I'm with young people. I love hearing the stories of the young people.
And shrooms hurt your tummy.
They can. Oh, they definitely
Yeah.
can. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Don't give yourself a hefty dose of mushrooms, everyone, if you're not close to a toilet.
I still think about you seeing cubed people, that everything was cubed.
was cubist.
Caitlin took some shrooms years ago and everything was fine. And then that 2-hour mark, everything kicks in and the fucking dogs were cubed. The cars were cubed. The people were cubed. They were like...
I literally stepped foot, like my one foot exited the illegal nightclub I was in, and I walked outside, and everything transitioned from regular life to cubism. And I was like, this is going to be an interesting car ride home. And it was really fun. My square driver was wonderful, and I didn't have any stomach issues, so it was great.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think I would be phoning 911. I just have no, I just reality. I don't know. But those are really, really funny stories.
They are funny.
Funny stories.
They're so funny.
I
But
feel like the bathroom is like a chapter when it resets almost. Like when you go to the bathroom.
Yes.
When you're like,
Yes.
you're like, when you're alone with yourself and maybe not in the comfort of other people for those few minutes, you're like, oh, how much am I feeling this? Or did I pee my pants? Or whatever it is. Right?
I can't
Did
believe
pee
where
my
this
pants?
conversation is
Oh
going.
my! Or sometimes you're not aware of what's like how you're doing on the scale of things, and then I'll go to
Yeah.
my friend's bathroom and the floor is tiled and
Yeah.
the floor is like breathing, and I'm like, okay,
Okay.
all
this is
right,
where
well
we're
we've had
at.
enough. Anyways,
Now,
listen to the Jann Arden podcast.
Do you think those days are over for you, Caitlin? Like,
For me?
as far as, well, you've got Will and
Yeah,
you're 40 now, and not that age should. I mean, I know people that just start taking mushrooms when they're 75. Like they've
my
just
dad
started
wants to go to, my father is on a wait list to go to Burning Man. So like, I don't know that.
Wow.
I mean, so yeah, it just depends. I also like when I say mushrooms, I'm not talking like a hero dose. Like I'm talking like micro doses.
Mhm.
I don't like the feeling of being out of control. It is undesirable to me.
Mhm.
So I think the thing with things like microdosing and the conversation that now happens around certain drugs like mushrooms and weed for sure is around like smaller, teeny tiny doses so that you're never going too far and you're anteing things up at a rate with which you're comfortable. And of course, this is like everyone has to be the right age. So I do feel like, yeah, I know my constitution. I'm not an addictive personality. Like, thank God. I just am not.
What if Will became a cube?
What if see, now that's the thing. That's the problem. You're like, as a parent, you really never want to be in a situation where you're in trouble with like your psyche and your surroundings, because like if things go sideways, it's like it's not good. And I'm an anxious person as well, so like I can't really enjoy that the same way. I don't even like being hungover around him even slightly, because I just feel like a deadbeat. So yeah, that changes. But I mean, as he gets older, or when you have time away with your partner, if we're like traveling or something like that, who's to say? So I don't know. I'm not sure. And I didn't even like, I was freaked out by mushrooms when I was a lot younger too. So I don't know. I won't rule it out.
Well, I'm a fan of all that stuff. And by that, I mean, I would much rather see people doing mushrooms and smoking pot or taking CBD or any of those tinctures than alcohol anytime. I think alcohol ruins lives, it ruins bodies. I've talked about this before. You don't see stoned guys jumping out of their cars on a Saturday night beating the shit out of each other. They're like, "Hey, nice shirt. I love your car, man. It's cool. Let's go back to your place and eat stuff."
Hey,
Like-
you're a cube right now.
Yeah. Holy crap, man. You look like, I don't know, but I really am a fan of the medicinal, those qualities, and all the tests they're doing with PTSD and like just LSD, all the different little, like you said, these micro doses. I think there's good things coming in the future for people that suffer from
And
depression and chronic anxiety. And
well, especially for things like PTSD. And I think that there is a lot of, if you're curious about it and you want to look into it and like study it, there's a lot of benefits. And because so many of these substances were deemed illegal and were just given this classification that meant they were never actually researched, and we don't know the full potential of them. But I mean, you look at how, for example, indigenous societies have used things like peyote over like years and years, and they use it to treat things like trauma quite successfully, like trauma within the communities, the trauma of systemic racism, but also people who are alcoholics, and they'll talk about sort of this like mind altering thing in a good way, like changing, making, increasing connecting to spirit. And also like when you're on certain types of these drugs, there's a thing called neuroplasticity, which means that you're more open to the suggestion and introduction of positive ideas if you've been stuck in a very negative mental space. And that's just a habit that your brain has to be trained out of. So again, if anyone's ever interested in this stuff, there's a great author called Michael Pollan. He's a journalist, and I believe he's a professor at a few universities as well. And he wrote a book called This Is Your Mind on Plants. And I just like his work. I read it a long time ago. He's done some great work around, diet and just health in general. And he explores since humans were on this planet, we have looked to alter our state of mind with plants, whether that's caffeine, whether that's, peyote, whether that is, the history of opioids. He really dug into it. And I thought from a kind of investigative perspective, it's really interesting stuff. It can be really interesting.
A couple of great podcasts if you want to check them out too. Bioactive is a good one.
Okay.
With like a ton of research. It's hosted by like a professor in the States who actually does research on the chemistry of all the drugs, and like the psychotherapist on the network, Spicy Fat, and Carlin Costa, she's certified to implement and integrate cannabis or psilocybin into patients that she treats.
Yeah. And I mean, I have friends who were, drug resistant, or family members who were drug resistant to antidepressants, and they had medically supervised ketamine sessions.
Exactly.
So that's supposed to be helping too.
Yeah, there's lots of potential here. So I just, I sway away from, like making any grand declarations or
I'm never going to do that either. And I'm also all into someone who has a glass of red wine because they want to relax at night. You know what I mean? Everything has a place, but
he also, in this book, Michael Pollan talks about how there is like I guess an ancient sort of saying that says the poison is in the dose, meaning you can die from over consuming water. So any substance can be lethal with the wrong dose. And the key
aspirins, Advil. There's so many Tide Pods. You never want to do more than one of those.
Don't have more than one Tide Pod, everybody. But like the key in life, I believe, is pretty well always moderation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, listen, while we're still on farting, shitting, drugs and stuff like that, this is another story that Caitlin brought to the table, and it's a Delta flight, and I read about this as well.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine 300 people on a flight. It's summer travel. Things are delayed. You finally get on your plane. You're sitting in there, and they served a meal. I'll let you take this from here, but it was a flight from Detroit to Amsterdam that had to make an emergency landing at the JFK airport Wednesday because of people being so sick from a meal. And
is there any
barfing? Like,
I don't know if there's any two scarier words in the English language put together than spoiled meat. When I hear spoiled meat
you don't
together,
have to tell me twice.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what was apparently the culprit on board. It was that there was some sort of spoiled meat that was served to people as part of their in-flight meal. And so it starts that people are really quite sick, and then they have to
two bathrooms on a plane. Imagine 300 people.
Well, they immediately decide that they're like, this is now too far gone. We have to land the plane. Too many people are sick. So they make this emergency landing. And emergency medical responders met the plane when it arrived and immediately treated 12 passengers. So they said they don't know how many, there's 277 people on board. They don't know how many of them got sick. But yeah, Delta just basically said, we apologize to our customers for, the inconvenience and delay in their travels. But I just increasingly, do we not feel like I have an axe to grind with air travel? Like, why does it feel so much worse? I mean, I know everything in life feels a little bit worse lately since like the pandemic and everything. But if I hear one more story about like a Boeing whistleblower, killing themselves in their car, or like a plane just auto landing itself, or diarrhea running down the aisle of a plane, or someone trying to, unhook the emergency door mid-flight. I'm like, we need trains. We need trains back, everyone. We need high-speed rail. I think we need to go back to like a steamboat era. I feel
we need a
like
paddle wheeler. We need some paddle wheelers.
We jumped the shark on air travel because every 2 days there's a story that makes me never want to get on a plane again.
What about a simple ride-on mower?
Can get from
how hard is that? Point A to point B.
Just give it a try.
Listen, when you have a system called capitalism that fuels your economy, so this is about saving money. You cannot tell me that someone made a decision to serve things that were improperly stored somewhere along that chain of command. Someone made a decision to pack up, 320 meals, put them on a plane that may have been left out, or I just find it very suspect that many meals are tainted. That means a lot of food that was stored in one communal place. But anyway, it's about saving money, and it's about how cost effective can we be? And it always takes it getting to that point. Now they're going to be facing lawsuits. I mean, Boeing, they're going to be pleading guilty and they owe like $250 million in fines. I think it should be more. And that's with the
737 MAX crashes.
Yeah, with all those crashes that were not coincidental. They were definitely.
And then the whistleblowers all wound up dead.
Isn't that interesting?
But one of the Boeing executives, when he was being questioned in front of some form of the U.S. government, admitted to the fact that they were targeting these whistleblowers with intimidation campaigns. So whether or not they're, directly or indirectly responsible for giving someone a mental health crisis, like who knows? But the whistleblowers, some of them were frequently people who were commenting on the fact that they had rolled back their unions. They had rolled back their unionized safety checks at these plants that were building the planes. And so they said it's no surprise to us that these planes have become less and less safe the more you erode the unions and the effectiveness of the unions that do
and their desire to do their jobs.
And so like you said, Jan, like it's all just coming down to saving a buck, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
Gross.
Well, the WestJet pilot, the mechanics that went on strike 2 weeks ago, that they're still trying to catch up with like 150,000 odd, people that were their travel was really disrupted. But the mechanics just wanted more money. And the argument could be like, there's a lot of people out there, listen, if you don't like what you're making in your job, quit your job, go find another job, because really that is the baseline of everyone working everywhere on the planet right now, whether you're working at a coffee shop, whether you're working in retail, whether you're working, people obviously want to make more money. So when you have a group of individuals that strike that are in very important jobs, the feeling for me is these are guys that are obviously in very, very important positions. Like you said, the safety and the maintenance of these aircrafts that are used sometimes for 24, 36 hours at a time. They pull in, they're refueled, they go. And I know that there's a point where they absolutely have to be parked, they have to be looked at, and the maintenance is quite astringent. But, you're like, just fucking pay these people because they could make our lives really hard. And who's looking after the plane? So there's a sense of urgency there.
Yeah. And it also depends on what's happening with the company financially on its own, right? So if you say to yourself, well, you're giving 4 executives tens of millions of dollars in bonuses annually, but you're refusing to pay the people who actually construct your planes and are responsible for the safety, security, and well-being of your passengers, the appropriate amount. And if you structure the bonuses of these executives on not giving any raises to their employees, which is frequently the case. So you think to yourself, these managers are rewarded each year financially for not increasing their costs of their budgets. And so when they when you create a financial incentive for the one person in charge of hundreds to
Yep.
never reward them or pay them properly, you've lost any sort of moral or ethical argument about how much you can or can't afford. And it's the same thing we see with, the grocery barons, as we
I
call
was
them
going to
now in
say
Canada.
that's the global economic system. That is
It
the
is.
entire system globally, is the very few that are in charge of billions of us
Yeah.
and control the narrative of how the world economic stage really functions. I mean,
Mhm.
they're having the NATO summit right now, and I think they're in New York City meeting for 3 days. And it's like the richest people deciding what's going to happen to the poorest people.
Yes, and so
And
we are a little, I will say, like you can feel it, in the global climate and with the news headlines, like we're a little overdue for some movement in that area. I
you're not
think.
going to see them get bad fucking chicken at any of their dinners. I'll guarantee you that right
No,
now.
they're not even
They're
flying
not going to be.
commercial.
They're not going to be shitting anywhere.
No, they're pooping probably on the poor. I mean, like it's very clear the way this works. So I do, again, if you see like a strike happen and you are personally inconvenienced by said strike, say here, for example, in Ontario with the LCBO, and you find yourself saying, "Oh, they don't like what they're making, then they can go quit their job and find." First of all, it's not
tell people what the LCBO is for people listening that don't know what that is.
The Liquor Control Board of Ontario
Okay.
is the government body that is in charge of selling alcohol. And it's an incredibly profitable piece. It's an incredibly profitable
run by the
asset,
government and controlled by the government.
It is a very rare piece of government asset that actually makes a ton of money. So for it to go on strike, they're on strike right now for two weeks, I think. We're losing hundreds of millions of dollars probably in lost revenue that goes directly
But
towards
your
funding
premier
things.
has created websites to direct people to non-governmental places to buy their wine and beer and their liquor, which is so funny.
The intent behind this is fairly obvious. I think it's on fairly clear display that if we lived in a society during the pandemic where we had regular citizens scrambling to put together a website to point out where you could go get COVID vaccinations or find COVID tests, but the government has the LCBO go on strike and immediately puts together a real-time map of where you can buy alcohol, I think you can recognize that
oh my God, so stupid.
We're living in an idiocracy. Like that's truly what's actually happened. And so
great cottage, Mr. Ford, that you're showing off there as you're on the grill.
I like a cottage. I just also think people should be able to find a doctor. Like I'm like, you should. We have
this map for
doctors. They can create that, but that's exactly right. They cannot create a real time map where there's a doctor right now that can take 200 patients in the next 3 weeks. So please sign up.
And the notion here
doesn't exist.
But and again, this is this through line. This is this buck of beer. This is this booze being sold at convenience stores. There's a theme here behind leaning things towards privatization, assuming that you, the general public, are dumb and you will be tricked by things like dollar beers into letting go of your healthcare and your education. And it does work for some people because, again, then you see the strikes happen and everyone's like, if they don't like the job, they should quit. This person makes more money than I do. I'm like, that's not the fault of that worker, however. And the LCBO makes a fortune and they should and could, engage more meaningfully with their workers about what a fair deal would look like. And the answer is ultimately not going to be to privatize the sale of alcohol because we would then lose this very, very incredible revenue generating stream for things like healthcare and schools and roads. You want to complain about the roads falling apart? It's all connected. So I think that it's easy to be annoyed immediately with the strike, especially like when it's an airline and your flights, when you're really put out by things like that. But the larger system that is a part of is kind of the more important conversation to have because I want safety checks for planes. I don't know about everyone else, but I really like the idea of that a lot.
I think we all do. We all want to be safe up there. But like you said, there's a lot of things falling through the cracks. More and more people are flying since COVID kind of officially ended. Traveling has gone up exponentially. I mean, travel all over the world. They're even trying to have selling times, like even at the Parthenon, like say in Greece, where used to, people could just show up and go visit their favorite monuments and things like that and just walk around freely. And now sort of in the last 10, 12 months, you have to get a time and a ticket. and they're only allowing
I
so
did
many
that.
people at a time. Like there's exactly. There's a
Last year.
lake here called Emerald Lake that's about an hour and 20 minutes directly west from here, and it's this beautiful, it's a mountain lake. It's as
Glacial
blue
water.
as you can possibly.
Ooh.
The silt in the lake makes it this incredible emerald color. And you used to be able to drive there, like up until like even a year ago, drive your car up, park. It was a nuts getting a parking spot, but eventually if you waited, you'd get one. Well, now you cannot drive a car up there. You have to park at the bottom of the hill in these massive parking lots now, take buses up, and you have to have reservations to go because they're so
Wow.
overwhelmed by tourism. And it's kind of sad, like even going to Banff, Lake Louise now, it's almost impossible. You're shoulder to shoulder just getting around because tourism has people are out doing stuff. I'm not sure what or why. I just want to be home. So I'm not going to be one of those people wandering around, but
Well, have you seen what's been happening in Barcelona that's popped up recently? So in Barcelona, they have all these anti-tourism protesters that are now firing water pistols at tourists when they see them, in these tourist-heavy parts of the city. And they assume that they're tourists. I mean, I don't know that they're not wearing like a badge that says tourist, but they assume that they're not locals. And it's in also
that would
the
be
Canary.
Scary getting shot.
I would think so too.
Someone pointing a water pistol at you and squeezing water. I mean, the sad part is that tourism fuels almost all of these economies. Full stop, period. It's tourism that Greece is in such an economic disaster. That government is so broken. The country's broke. If it wasn't for tourism in those places, there would be a lot more problems over there than there is now. So yes, the tourists are a blessing and a curse. I get that, but it's just part of the world.
In Barcelona, I think, and a major thing that has really changed, within recent years is that you can rent private apartments now on Airbnb. And so they're saying that you're contributing to the housing crisis in many of these popular tourist destinations.
They're saying that everywhere.
Exactly. So it's like that was part of the protest that popped up in Barcelona, but the same sentiment exists in New York or London or Paris or here in Toronto. And they are also saying that while tourism, yes, is a huge economic boost for all of these cities, the money that is brought in from tourism is then never trickled down to social services. So as much as, they're like, yeah, sure, it brings in a lot of money. But again, the question becomes for who? But I just saw the footage of these people who clearly just wanted to go see like the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. And they were just sitting there eating their patatas bravas, getting squirted with water guns. I was like, it's one way to get your message across because now I'm talking about it. I read it in the headlines, but I just felt bad for all the families I saw. I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Did we get any voice notes this week, Sarah?
We have messages, but no voice notes, and I'm happy.
What's
to read
going
you a
on
few.
with people? We need voice notes, people. Am I going to have to start phoning our own voice note site again? I'm going to leave a voice as soon as I hang up from this podcast. I'm leaving us a voice note. So we got some messages.
Also, we have put some posts out on all our socials about the Ask Us Anything episode
Yes,
that we'll do
we're
in
working
the near
on
future.
it. Mm-hmm.
So we're going to leave those up for a while. We're not even going to tell you when we're going to hit you with this Ask Us Anything episode, but voice notes will be played in the Ask Us Anything episode. So if you got a question, might as well try a voice note, and you can do it on your phone.
And we will try and answer the uncomfortable stuff too. Like, don't think we're just going to skip to like the obvious these questions. We're gonna maybe I'll pick some questions for Caitlin, and I'll pick some questions for you. You guys don't get to pick your own questions, and I won't pick my own questions either. The girls can pick for me. Yeah. And I promised
three-way vetting
to tell you other places that I've shit. Okay, go ahead.
You guys did the ask us questions thing when you were on tour with Rick Mercer. And I loved, so there was one question that was the celebrity throuple. Who would you be in a celebrity throuple with? I thought that was funny. So like, I'm just trying to
have the answer.
We do, but I'm just trying to get everyone's like creative juices flowing. Cause sometimes when you say like ask a question, I think it's hard to like think of what you'd even want to know.
A lot of people were like, oh my God, how long do I have to think about this? I want to have a really good question. So
just ask
you have time.
You have lots of time, but also you can just ask you can ask anything you want, questions about how the
virginity, what buildings I've thrown up on in Calgary,
Yeah.
Worst sexual experience.
So
Best concert, worst concert.
People that I have a crush on right now.
Mm-hmm. Hottest topic in the group chat. Does your group chat have a name? And if so, what is it? These are all things you could ask us about.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to read any of the questions that we've got so far.
No,
save that for the
we're
end
saving
of
them. You're
something.
saving them.
But here's
And we'll
what we
try.
got in the
It's going to be a whole hour of questions. So your questions could very well make it on.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So here's what we got in the last week. Heather has written in on our website.
Mhm.
Hi, Jan. I was listening to one of your podcasts recently, and you mentioned the cost of walnuts at Safeway. My husband and I enjoy walnuts almost every day. I buy them from a place called Rancho Vignola online. They are located in Armstrong, BC. They source the nuts, seeds, and from around the world. The walnuts are the best I've ever had. I buy them in 5-pound bags, store them in the freezer. I'm confident that once you try these walnuts, you will never go back. Check them out online. And so that's
Thank you. And I'm going to
from
check
Heather.
them out.
Okay.
Walnuts are
we-
freaking expensive.
I know.
Now, this one came in at like 2 a.m. from someone
Okay, so we got somebody who's
this
up.
was a FC Beeman, so I don't know the actual
Okay.
name, but hey, Jan, I've listened to every episode of the show, love them all. However, this has been one of the top 5 for sure. That was for the last week's episode.
What
which
was last week?
Jeff versus Doug. Okay. This has become one of my top 5 for sure, if not very, very favorite. I am 63 and can so relate to summer romance, but I'm here to tell you, Jan, my favorite time to start a romance is February. In case you don't believe in love at first sight, this is a thing. I lived it, and we both felt the same way. Still in love. We've never married. And on another note, the bee story, Caitlin, made my eyes sweat. I can just picture the little boy and all the adults rallying around to
I
help
loved
the bee.
it.
Well done. Keep
I
up
love
the great
it.
storytelling. You really do not need special guests unless it's me. Then you have your people. Call my people. In which case, I'll be happy to join. I'm a team of one, married with one beautiful. I thought she just said she's not married. Anyway, with one daughter.
She doesn't
who
have
has
to be
made me-
married to be in love.
Married with one beautiful daughter who made me a grandma 4.5 years ago. I've never been so in love in my life. We had a sleepover last weekend and
With
got
a granddaughter.
Yes, and got talking about why he thinks his bird may be too fat. As a grandma, I had to keep a straight face and discuss the pressing issue with him. Sorry for the long post, but it's 2:30 a.m. here in the Maritimes, and no one is up to converse with me. Thank you, ladies. I am a good mother, too. That is my favorite song. Hugs.
I hope they're actually talking about an actual bird, not some kind of a euphemism for
I know.
hope so,
a part
too.
of a body. My bird's too fat because I.
Anyway, that was
Well,
a
thank you
longer
for that.
one.
No, that's really sweet. Thank you so much.
So yeah, voice notes. More voice notes next week. We want to feature you in an upcoming episode.
I'm calling
so
in.
We understand you take vacations too, but sending in a voice note is not a heavy lift.
Well,
Also, too, sometimes when it's like they ask us anything, it doesn't even have to be questions about, our lives or the show. It can also be, for advice.
we can look up scientific shit too. Like if you have a quandary about
We got the Google.
what makes a bird overweight, like how do you tell if your bird is overweight? These girls, Caitlin and Sarah, they can do some recon. They can
Is
find out.
Ozempic right for your parakeet?
And you know
Find
how to
out
weigh
next.
a bird, right? You step on the scale without your bird, and then you step on the scale with your bird. So
I
that's how
wouldn't
you
have
know.
known that.
And then you subtract the
It's
amount.
the same with a baby pretty well.
Oh my God.
So funny.
Oh shit. Well, now everyone knows how much I weigh, where I had diarrhea again. I tell that story at least once a year because it's so traumatizing, but I'm getting over it. And you guys are amazing as always. Thank you for being earnest and candid and forthright and bringing all these great stories week after week.
Mhm.
Hope everyone's having a great summer. I hope you're listening to the Jam summer playlist. I was listening to it all day yesterday. I had workers here working on my hot tub. We got a few little issues, but we're getting there. And
Did you tell them I made this playlist, guys? You should like it.
I didn't say anything, but the very, very handsome Brazilian gentleman named Davidson, who's a member of the Canadian bobsled team, Olympic bobsled team,
You
was
need
in
to
my
invite
yard
him.
yesterday, 30 years old, and I had feelings for you, Davidson. But what
Invite
a
him when
nice
I'm there,
guy.
please.
I know, my goodness. Anyway, they were both great. Him and Charlie did such a great job in my yard, but they both loved the music. It was our summer jams. And drum roll, everyone. We are starting a Patreon. Okay, which is a place, and you guys are familiar with Patreon. I know you've heard that a lot from people about getting bonus material, about getting first access to like hearing music clips from maybe somebody's new record, things like that. That will be very special. You can get all this stuff video, audio behind the scenes. My dog barking will be included in this. A whole bunch of stuff. And we're just going to make sure that it's fresh and fun and exciting week after week. We're going to have new things for you. And on today's episode, don't you want to know what just got delivered to Caitlin and that we're going to show you that she got in a magical bag? I can't say anything. You can head to patreon.com/Jann Arden Pod. Patreon is Patreon. Patreon.com/Jann Arden Pod. The link is going to be in our show notes. So if you're like me and you can't remember what I just told you, you can go on the show notes. And as you know, we're working on merch. So listen to this, guys. The first 50 people to sign up for our Patreon for $5 a month, that's less than a box of tampons. Okay?
That's true.
That's
less than a Starbucks in most cases, too.
That's true.
A coffee anywhere, for God's sakes.
It's the cheapest subscription you'll have.
It is. It's the cheapest thing you're going to get. That's $1.25 a week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? $1.25 a week. You're going to get a brand new, never before seen Jann Arden podcast t-shirt as soon as they're ready, and all the bonus content. $5. Patreon.
Take a chance on us.
Take a chance on us.
Also, for all of the, dedicated Jann super fans who decide to join our Patreon, you're going to get shout outs every week. You're going to have special access to cool stuff that we're doing.
We might even invite you to record.
We might even invite you to join the show and record. We might join you.
And you're going to be first on a list to get live tickets. We're going to be doing a live event this fall. Right now, it's looking like October. We're working on it as we speak. My dear assistant, Chris Brunton, who everybody knows, my road manager, Chris Brunton, is going to be working with Sarah and Caitlin to find an event space, but we're going to have it this year. I promise you, knock on this wood. It's going to be really exciting, but we're going to have all kinds of news about that in the next few weeks, but we're definitely going to be, yeah. And so the Patreon, you guys you'll be first in line to access the tickets to come and see one of these live events.
You're our VIPs.
VIPs. There's lots of stuff to look forward to. So does anyone else have thing to say about farting, throwing up, summer diarrhea? Like, I don't know. We're
going to wrap it there.
We're going to
wrap it
As someone who's already talked about tricking themselves into thinking they peed their pants when they were too high, I feel that I've given all I can give.
you gave all you could give today. You've been listening to or watching the Jann Arden podcast and show. I'm here with Caitlin Green, Sarah Burke. We appreciate you guys, and stop making us jealous.
Sorry,
we'll see you guys we'll see you guys next time. Get those questions in. Leave those voice notes. We will answer questions in the next couple of weeks. I promise. This episode will be on probably the first that they ask us anything will probably be the first week of August. And so you've got lots of time to get your questions in or your queries.
Anything.
So thanks, guys. As usual, we'll see you next time. Toodly-doo.